All right, so I have a whole video on the 76ers that is pretty much already going to be done by the time this one's coming out, but I wanted to make this video real quick for today's upload because some big news just happened in the NBA, which is the Milwaukee Bucks chose to sit out Game 5 versus the Orlando Magic in protest because of what happened with Jacob Blake the other day. And this had a bit of a domino effect because now the OKC Thunder and Rockets both agreed they're going to protest their game today, and the Lakers are considering protesting their game. I'm assuming the Blazers are a part of that as well. Apparently the Magic were not interested in protesting, and there's going to be some debate about whether or not that is a game that should be just given the win to the Magic, but that's honestly a whole nother thing that's really not important to me right now and really shouldn't be important to anybody. It's like priorities, dude. This video is obviously unscripted. I only want to do one of these a week, but shit keeps happening where I just want to speak on something as fast as possible, so it is what it is. So as for why the Milwaukee Bucks are doing this protest, well, we obviously know all the stuff that's going on in the world that started with George Floyd, but of course was an issue before George Floyd was even around. And that was a big part of the NBA coming back in the first place. It was like, well, to what degree do we really want to come back? Because how much is this going to distract from what's going on? How much is this going to distract from the message, from what we need to be making clear and the progress we need to be making? And a lot of players opted out because of this. A lot of players went in begrudgingly. Guys like Kyrie Irving said that this was going to be a distraction. And honestly, I can't say that it hasn't been. Like, I haven't thought about that stuff in a while, and luckily for me, I have the privilege to not have to worry about skin color nearly that much. That's just what happens when you're white, but the actual social issue has not been in the forefront of my mind like it was for well over a month after George Floyd's death. And part of that has to do with the NBA coming back. And an unfortunate aspect of Black Lives Matter and the protest against police, and the thing about that is we've seen this cycle before. We've seen this movement spark up before. It happened back in Ferguson. It's happened with Tamir Rice and all of those things. And it just kind of goes, it's like waves, peaks and valleys. It goes up when another person is unjustly shot, another black man is unjustly shot, and here are the protests, and then it drops back down again once it's no longer as relevant, and then it happens again, and then it goes back down. It happened again with George Floyd, and this is easily the longest it's stayed at its peak, but it gradually went back to the valley. And Jacob Blake was like a wake-up call that was like, guys, this is still an issue. And obviously, the people that experience this every day know that it's an issue. That's no shit. But it's not in the forefront of people's minds like it really should be. And that is why the Bucks and now the Rockets and the Thunder and soon to be, I assume, the Lakers are completely right to be doing this protest. Because you know me, you know this channel, you would know that obviously basketball is a huge deal to me. Basketball is where I get most of my entertainment. Throughout the day, when the season's on, I am watching a basketball game, watching videos about basketball, watching highlights, watching documentaries, looking up stats, making videos on it because it's my job. Basketball at least consumes half of my time in the day easily. So yeah, I want to see NBA games be played, obviously. This is my biggest hobby or my biggest source of entertainment by a considerable margin, but it's just fucking entertainment. At the end of the day, basketball is a game that I love, but it's just a game. And that's why the players are 100% just in doing this. They're trying to, once again, put it in the forefront of the minds of everybody that basketball is not as important as police brutality and the Black Lives Matter movement. So the players are completely justified. And as for the reasoning that people are having, like, what is this going to change? It's not always clear what is going to change, but the solution is not to do nothing. The solution is not to keep going with the status quo. You try shit, and if the shit doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I would like to think that it's a sign of progress that Jonathan Isaac not kneeling for the national anthem was the headline for a long time. Not that he did kneel, not that players were kneeling, that he was the one guy who didn't. That's progress, and all of that was a culmination of the shit that Colin Kaepernick did, the shit that is happening within the bubble, all of that stuff. It's progress. It's not easy. It's not quick. It's not as good as you'd like it to be. It'd be nice if you could just snap your finger and everything was better. But you have to do these smaller incremental things like an NBA team not playing a playoff game in order to make things happen. And that's just the reality of the situation. Everyone that goes against this is expecting the only solution is something that just flips a switch and everything's fixed. But that's not reality. That's not how the world works. Martin Luther King was talking about shit that is still going on today prevalently. And that was 60 odd years ago. So that's the reality. Progress is slow and it takes small steps, and a small step is still a good thing as opposed to no step at all. As for why the Bucks specifically were the first team to really do this, well, if you actually look into it, it's because of one player in particular on top of, a lot of these are black men in America that understand that experience. I obviously do not, but I'd like to think that I am sympathetic enough to take a look at it. And specifically on this team is Sterling Brown, who himself had an officer kneel on his neck and tase him. I don't know all of the exact details of that altercation, but I know for sure he didn't deserve that shit. And that's the reality, and that's why this Bucks team was one of the teams at the forefront of this, because they have a guy on their team that experienced something similar to George Floyd before it got much, much worse. What I'm worried about and what I'm going to keep an eye out for is what the NBA is going to do, because there's definitely the possibility that the NBA punishes these guys, and I'd have to say for the NBA that would be a very bad look, because to me all of the stuff that they've been doing in the bubble in regards to that movement has felt fake as shit to me. And that's not because I don't believe you can be genuinely in support of something. I don't believe every time someone expresses some political opinion it's virtue signaling. I'd like to think that I'm not virtue signaling right now, but when a corporation does it, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, I'm a whole lot more hesitant about it because they're motivated by profits. And that's just how it is. And when a corporation's saying Black Lives Matter and putting out a bunch of commercials talking about it and having the commentators talk about it like they've literally been drill instructed to do so, all of those things, it feels like they're doing it so people praise them, and I'm not one to do that. Like, congratulations on doing the bare minimum just so that you can be accepted and not actually caring about the issues. Like, congratulations on originally banning players from kneeling during the national anthem and then encouraging it when it makes your brand look better. I don't believe it's genuine at all. But if the NBA wants to prove to be not genuine, a great way to do so would be to punish these players for doing this, hold something against them, give them repercussions, because if there was a punishment for choosing to forfeit a game because of the Black Lives Matter movement, then you're showing your hand. You're proving yourself to be full of shit about actually caring and only caring about profits exclusively. Putting Black Lives Matter on the court does not matter if you don't actually believe that and if you don't hold up the principles of that statement. All of that stuff, the many commercials where they're just beating it over your head, all of that stuff, every time they were beating that over your head, it already felt disingenuous. But if you actually actively go against it by punishing these players, you're proving that everything that you said, everything that you did, all the things you did to give these players a platform and all of that, completely disingenuous. As for the players, the title of this video is going to be something like "The players are well within their right to do this," and they completely are, because it's fucking basketball. We're not going to talk about the contractual obligations to play games and all of that stuff, because this is bigger than that. And I don't like that people are talking about what happens with the Orlando Magic win or not, because apparently those players were like, yeah, we still want to play. I don't give a fuck. Give the Magic a win, don't. This is not what's important right now. And I don't know, every time this happens, it's just a sad reminder to me, and it's not like I'm above it because I'm a part of that cycle too, that something big happens, there's a big movement, and then it drops off, and then something bad has to happen again. Another black man has to get shot for no fucking reason in order for something like this to happen. And that's a bit of a commentary on the players involved, that it took that happening again for them to take this seriously once more, but that's also human nature, unfortunately, and it's the best and worst thing about us, because for some things it helps us move on from horrible shit that we need to move on from, but at times it also keeps us from keeping a strong eye on what we should be keeping an eye on. And in this case, the players are well within their right, and if you disagree, you can honestly go fuck yourself. They have every right to do this, and they're not only do they have every right, they're completely right to do this. This is the right move, in my opinion, and even if you don't think it's going to do anything, you should not think that they're not allowed to, because they are. So yeah, I had to say something about this. I was, again, originally planning on putting out a Sixers video, but when something big like this happens in the league and I'm doing unscripted videos now, I kind of have to put something out. So that's what this video is. Bye.